little late, but we got to finish the conversation, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Getting it done on the 30th, so try and get this out as soon as possible. But yep, we're doing the second part of our September 11th podcast, and when we did the first part, we were both basically just talking about where we were, how we thought about things, and how we think that it affected the world. I can't remember if we did this before. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But before we get into some of the craziness that we promised the last episode, basic timeline of events. The first plane hits the North Tower at like 8:46. Second plane hits the South Tower, World Trade Center at 9:03 a.m. 9:37 a.m. The third plane hits the Pentagon, and a fourth plane hits a field in Pennsylvania at 10:03. And then after quite a bit goes down after the man, that's a terrible thing, timeline of events, because it didn't really mention when the actual towers go down. But tower,
I mean, pretty much all the points of impact, it was less than a 2-hour period of time, just a little less than 2 hours. I believe the first impact was a little bit before 9, and the last impact was a little bit before 10:30.
Oh,
and
yeah.
While impact on that is the last tower coming down.
Yeah,
it was all very fast.
Yeah, and I mean, after the planes hit, it was just it was like a matter of it wasn't very long after the impacts that the towers came down, and then of course Building 7 came down like way.
Oh
after.
yeah, like almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
because of office fires.
Yeah. So now,
just before we get into that, just say you realize there was apparently a lot of CIA documents in the Solomon Building.
Oh, really?
It was the Solomon Building.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. People, and we're not going to take it there just yet, but I will say it blows my mind because I was so used to it. I still remember looking at the TV that day. A lot of people do not think 3 buildings came down that day. 3 buildings. That building was small in stature compared to the Twin Towers, but in a lot of cities, that would be the biggest building in the city. And it was World Trade Center number 7.
I didn't even know about that for the longest time until seeing some of these documentaries.
It just dropped in the background.
Yeah, nobody mentions Building 7. There was some news reports.
I mean, the BBC reported it before it actually came down.
And here we go.
It was standing in the background they were.
No.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, you're not getting ahead of yourself. It's a good introduction into it because there were so many things that were just weird and didn't make sense, and then people had questions, and then
you're not supposed to ask those questions.
Yeah,
it's a little weird that Building 7's not in the commission report.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you read the whole thing?
I've thumbed through it. Some of it I've thumbed through, but I already knew a lot. There's apparently 28 pages missing in it. A lot of people associate it with the Saudis. Well, Saudis were involved.
Yeah, and then
Saudis got a bigger partner. We're partners with the Saudis.
Yeah, I mean
we're also partners with the other.
We're partners. We're partners with everybody.
Everybody.
Whether I mean, we can sit here and talk about how and we're going to get a little off topic on this. You and I spoke about it. It's very weird that there's all these different countries who have research bases in Antarctica, and it's all these countries that supposedly hate each other. But for the interest of they all
hold their ground together on that.
But that's the other one. That's like the biggest, most well-known one, as far as, the theories go for, the September 11th attacks, was that it was It was known that it was going to happen. It was let happen. And this was all to give a reason to invade the Middle East. And then you had people saying, like, yeah, man, we're going to go over there and our gas is going to be a nickel a gallon. And, you know, obviously none of that shit happened. Gas is more expensive today than it was back then.
Kind of makes me sick to hear. And I remember some of it too, but you bring that up, makes me sick hearing people talk like that about, we're going to just take theirs.
Yeah.
People that had nothing to fucking do with it.
Yeah. And it's it was just
I always get asked, why do you care so much about that? Because I know you know too. You know how I am, man. Us just talking, get in that zone, and crazy conspiracy, dude. When you take a step back and sit down and look at the overall picture of it, that shit at the beginning of this century it changed everything.
Yeah.
In a way, in a big way, and it's caused a lot of deaths. It's disrupted a lot of shit, and there's a lot of people that haven't been punished.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah, and I mean,
and been held accountable that they should be. But you get in trouble for saying that. Well, I don't know. Well, it seems like it's getting that way anyway. Right now, you'll just lose your job if you got a certain position.
Yeah, well, and like the whole thing for it being a an excuse to go into Iraq, that was the weirdest thing, because it was like, okay, it was all Pakistan and Afghanistan, wasn't it? All the terrorists. Was there anybody from Iraq? Like, how did we make that link?
Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But that's where we,
You know what I started thinking of over time? I don't know if I ever worded it like this to you, but it's like they wanted to pin it on these like small groups in these small countries. And then it's like, yeah, they hate us. But they run a country. They're not totally fucking dumb. Why would they do that knowing that the wrath of hell is going to come for them? Why? You get what I'm saying?
Well,
why?
when it comes to Afghanistan,
Saddam Hussein already knew. He's like, man, these motherfuckers. I'm like, if I'm shitting the wrong way, these motherfuckers want to blow me up.
Well, when it comes to like,
I mean, God forbid you want to use your own type of currency.
Well,
just saying.
Well, when it comes to Afghanistan, if anybody was going to have the balls to do it, Afghanistan's got a pretty big chip on their shoulder. I mean, they took on Russia. During like Alexander the Great.
Yeah, but we were giving them money at that point.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, Alexander the Great.
We do.
His big thing. He conquered, all of that part of the world, except for one little spot, and that was fucking Afghanistan. Like, they've taken on, that little teeny country has taken on some fucking empires, and I'm not going to say they came out on top, but they didn't get their land didn't get turned into a parking lot.
Yeah, I always say, turn them to glass. Well, we're going to turn them to glass.
It sucks.
No, stop. No.
I hate using that accent because it comes out in me sometimes.
What's that?
The Southern accent. Sometimes I don't have it, and then sometimes I do. And then when I use it mockingly to describe stupid people, I'm like, I'm describing myself.
Dude,
I'm kind of stupid.
I heard that accent.
I'm self-aware.
Just like that. When we were told to get the fuck off the base when it happened on 9/11, these motherfuckers coming out of the building, me and my buddy, having to leave work. Yeah, you two are going to war. Get ready. You're going to war. I was like, you might have to go too, buddy. He's like, no, they threw me out.
And then we go to Iraq. We find Saddam Hussein in a fucking spider hole, and he's gone now. But we get there, and that was one of the things too.
They wanted nothing more than to link that dude in with it. Man.
Yeah, and the whole thing was
they were at the top of the list of 7 countries that Wesley Clark talked about.
And the whole thing was like, why won't you let our inspectors into your facilities to inspect for WMDs? And then all of this shit. And you know what?
Hodge bricks.
All these lives lost, all this money spent for a big old nothing burger. And then I think that there was some things where like even Saddam Hussein was like, yeah, I lied about that because fucking wait, have we been saying Iran when we should have been saying Iraq? He was worried about Iran and he was bluffing that he had
was. So, yeah, because they always
Yeah,
they
Saddam
had some bad wars.
Saddam was bluffing in Iraq
Yeah.
that he had WMDs because he was worried about Iran, who we gave centrifuges to for some reason for for their power plants, for their nuclear power plants. Yeah, I'm sure that's what they're going to use all of them for.
Hey, man. They're going to look at us like you have all this shit to defend yourself, and it doesn't justify any of it, man. But
yeah.
Who are we?
No, it's, you know, there's some things when you look at some of our weapon systems and how deadly and accurate they are and the collateral damage.
we look at Iraq and just assume, goddamn, the fucking Israelis stole our nuclear secrets on shit and actually have nukes. Well, they've said it but don't say it, and we acknowledge it but don't acknowledge it. And that's supposed to be an ally, but
yeah.
And they don't sign any of the treaties.
Yeah, and they're picking fights.
It's weird, man. They picked a lot of fights.
They've been picking a lot of fights.
And then they hide behind what?
The
big dumb robot.
You're gonna have to. You don't have to.
Harry Vox.
There you go. But you know,
he's a rebel.
That's like the biggest one. That's the biggest conspiracy theory, which I don't even really think it's a conspiracy
real
theory
quick, though,
anymore.
I gotta say what. Maybe it's just me, but whenever I was saying the big robot phase to you, and then we'll move on. Do you just picture the Iron Giant?
Of course,
I love that movie.
It's either Iron Giant or the big robot from Fallout 4. I forget what his Liberty Prime. But no, the Iron Giant where he's got that big eye laser and he just sweeps it across. That's us. That's us. But to get back on the topic, because you know everybody was sitting there. It wasn't really a conspiracy theory. We've gone over there, and if you don't think that our country has taken advantage of the resources that are over there, whether it be the oil, whether it be
the drugs.
Exactly. The opium fields, natural resources that are just over there, minerals.
Dude,
and
fuck
stuff
the
like
Taliban, the way they are about certain things. It's irrelevant. But when you bring up the poppy shit over there, they were apparently trying to do away with all that. There's lots of poppy over there. That shit. They would say the opposite in the news, but it's a known fact that shit is increased. The poppy production in Afghanistan has increased since we're not over there anymore.
No, but
maybe China took it over.
There was some, and I mean, I'm not going to say that they were bullshit stories. Apparently, our government was trying to get farmers to transition from opium production to like corn. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, oh man, if I'm a farmer and I'm selling opium, I'm going to make a lot more money selling opium than I am corn. But the thing was, the thing is that these farmers weren't making the money. The Taliban were having them apparently growing the opium under threat of, completely, killing their entire family if they didn't continue to make the opium, which funded their war, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, I mean, we still like opium. We still have painkillers. We still have opiates. That comes from opium. You need to grow it. People need to grow it. People need to buy it and synthesize it and put it into all the things that are fucking making us sick in America, if not outright killing us. But, those were like, that's like the biggest things where it was like, you're just talking out of your ass. That's a conspiracy theory. And then you find out 20 years later. We didn't even find out 20 years later. We found out fucking 5 years into the war that's what we were doing.
Well, dude, I mean, we found out there was no WMDs. And then how long did the Iraq war go on for?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, George Bush stood on a fucking stage and made a joke at like some dinner, like it might have been the big press corps dinner that they do in DC, and all the press and and they all get around like, roast each other in their elitist way. And every time I hear that clip of Bush come up, yeah, still looking for them WMDs, and you hear all them motherfuckers, both sides, mind you.
Oh yeah.
It is infuriating because all you think about is like, oh, what about all the innocent people you killed because of the WMDs? And I mean, he wasn't even the big boogeyman. The big boogeyman they built up was Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
And then it makes me think back because I'd always peek in on the news. I didn't really sit in and watch. My mom at that time, she doesn't watch it anymore. You know, sometimes you figure things out. She used to watch the CBS Evening News. Everybody's parents watched the news. At that time, there wasn't a lot, streaming shit on the internet.
Yeah. You had to watch TV.
Ancient times.
Yeah, back in my day.
You had the big networks. But regular CBS News with Dan Rather. And I remember coming by sometimes they were talking like possible threat to America. And you'd start hearing shit about Al Qaeda. And there'd be these videos of them in their training camps. And they're all dressed in black with their faces covered. And I guess they're videos from their training camp. I don't know why they're covered there, but they're like that. And you see them doing the monkey bars all quick. You can find this shit.
Oh, yeah,
still.
yeah.
I went back and found some of it. I remember seeing this shit. And it's like they were planting seeds. This was several years before it. And, we started having little attacks. Like we had 2 embassies attacked. And then there was like the USS Cole in 2000, I believe. And it kind of leads up. We got imminent threat from
Oh yeah, the
Al Qaeda.
the terror alert warnings.
Well, no, those didn't start till 9/11.
No, I know, but that's just another part of it.
Yeah.
Like
They
those-
replaced the color bar for the terror warnings. Remember we had that after 9/11? It was like when COVID happened, then they had the death counter
Yeah,
and the high risk areas.
yeah, and
The hate freedom.
I can't remember the color thing, but I don't think it was ever in green. I think it went like
fuck no! That shit was like permanent yellow.
It was
every
no,
once in a
no,
while.
no.
Oh, terror threat level raised to orange.
not that it ever went to green. I don't think that there was a green on the color chart. I think it was just yellow, orange, red.
Oh, dude, and they capitalize on that shit. I think one time I like skipped out on work and I was hanging out it was over at your mom's house when she had the house by the pond, and there was that London bombing or whatever. Oh, the United States raised the terror threat alert to orange. They're thinking about red, but right now it's in orange.
But yeah, and then to go back to the training camps, all those videos you saw, the training camps, right? And they're all over there in the Middle East. But then you started hearing these little rumors. Like we live in Virginia, and you're like, yeah, man, there's a fucking Al Qaeda training camp just over in fucking, I'm gonna just make up a count, Bucksville. Probably we really do have a Bucksville. I don't know. I've never been everywhere, but it was like, yeah, you had these guys. A real threat. I mean, they're real. It's a real organization. Al Qaeda, all these ISIS, all this stuff. But you see them, and yeah, they're literally training on monkey bars. They're fighting in fucking sandals, and the whole thing always seemed to me to be like, you need to be afraid of these guys, but at the same time, you had other people saying, we don't need to worry about these people as a threat. Do you know what our nation can do? We can put boots in the ground anywhere in the world within 24 hours. So there was always this dual fucking scaring
it's like that, and then some
relief
of that shit,
thing.
The ones that I saw was from over there.
Yeah,
And then the
No,
fact that,
I never saw a single one where there was trees in the
Yeah.
training videos.
Well, I mean, they said it was from over there. I mean, who knows? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you don't know.
they could've
Everybody's
had a bunch
covered
of dudes
also.
in
I mean, they
pajamas
could have filmed it
dancing
in
around
Israel. Who knows? It might have been in Tel Aviv. But
We could have had a bunch of dudes in fucking black khakis and masks in like Arizona, and we wouldn't have known.
fucking and then the fact that CNN had that sit down interview with bin Laden a little before then, they were already considering him a threat, and there was the whole USS Cole thing. Well, how the fuck CNN get this sit down interview with bin Laden in a secret cave complex? Get the when you look back on that shot, I was like,
Yeah,
this ain't right.
yeah. The reporters
Yeah.
got in touch with the most wanted man in America.
We got connections. We're CNN.
Meanwhile, how long did it take us? 10 years. It took 10 years for our armed
Well, at that
forces
point,
to
it might-
find a 60-year-old man on dialysis,
And
apparently.
then they had to bury him at sea, so you
Yeah.
know. just because.
Yeah.
Dude
So-
also worked for the CIA, and they got his family out on 9/11 after everything happened.
Yeah. And you're just talking crazy talk. You're a conspiracy theorist.
Look, man, you can't
Exactly.
help but question shit.
No.
man.
That's exact.
You
That's
can't
why we're
help
doing what we're
question
doing
the
right
people
now.
with power.
Now,
And then you get into there were actually arrests.
oh yeah,
on 9/11.
Okay, now we're getting into
And
it. Let's
they
get into
were
this
like
meat.
They were like I even remember the live reports, but they would just say Middle Easterners. There were reports of Middle Easterners arrested in vans with explosives in it. This is all true. This shit happened.
Yeah.
One of them was near the Brooklyn Bridge or George Washington Bridge in New York. There were multiple arrests across the country. There were Middle Easterners from Israel. There was reports that day of guys across the river in New Jersey watching and waiting, and the first plane hit, and people were disturbed by it, and people took pictures of these guys celebrating, and then it's turned into it's a conspiracy theory that's referred to as the dancing Israelis. A lot of this shit was sealed up for a long time, even though there was a lot of proof. I'll get to one of the video proofs that you can still find online.
Are you talking about the like they were on like not just them filming themselves? Like a couple of these guys were like on talk shows or something.
Went after they kept them in jail for a little bit, and then of course our government gets them out there, and it all just goes away. There's videos out there of them on Israeli talk shows saying how they were pretty much like we were there, and there was videos of some of them holding a lighter up and waving lighters, and they were smiling and dancing around, and they were like we were there to document the event.
Document the event
that doesn't bother people, man.
that you didn't document an event that nobody knew was going to happen.
Exactly, man. And I mean, I know some people think it's crazy, but I'm trying to pull up some stuff here where there's.
Well, why you're looking
I
up
got
at that?
some information where there were articles written when guys were arrested that day, man.
Well,
and it's
and
like this shit just goes away.
I had a thing.
The art student mystery and shit. There were Israelis that occupied the World Trade Center for a period of time before these attacks.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to take a little bit of a look at that, I'm going to list some of the other things that I know you want to talk about. Because when you talk about these people who were there to do things that they shouldn't have known about ahead of time, there's these other instances that, like a week before or something like that, a crew came in to do work in the elevator shafts, I believe, of the World Trade Center. But there's no record of them doing that. Like people reported that they were in there and doing that, but there's no records of any kind of maintenance work that needed to be done in the elevator shafts. Then you've got now I don't know if this is connected with the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania, but you have you have those strange phone calls that were made from the plane. Where people were saying that they were being hijacked, and then there's a theory that the plane was set down, and
I've heard that too.
That plane, the real
From
plane
what I
with those
understand, Ryan, not to
people
cut you
never-
off.
No, you're good.
You couldn't make cell phone calls apparently when you were that high up in the air, just flying around at that point in time.
They tested this out actually. I believe it was either a Japanese news studio where they tested it out with multiple different cell phones from airplanes. And the way that this works, and it still kind of works this way if you're in a shitty area like we are, where cell phone service can be the greatest in one area and then 10 feet you're blocked out. But basically the way that it works is that in between cell phone towers, let's say cell phone tower A, cell phone tower B, and you've got great service at A. But now you're leaving the service area of A and you're entering the service area of cell tower B. There's this thing that's called a handoff point where you are, I forget if you're losing service, but there's a point in time where you're not going off of A anymore. You're going off of B. And for that to have happened at this point in time when cell phone technology was pretty good, but not nearly anything like it is today.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you couldn't do this in the air. You just can't. It's not, and then, we always heard like, well, why can't I have my electronic devices on, and there's the whole thing where your electronic devices can interfere with our electronic devices and it can make the plane crash. And it's like, nah, really, we just, just don't want you to have your shit on while we're flying a plane. And so, I mean, there's that. There's the, to get into the I know a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, and you've got a lot more information on this, but the actual stuff with the buildings themselves, the pancake theory of how the buildings fell down, controlled demolition with images where it obviously looks like, and now I get it. If the pancake theory is true, you know what? I'm getting off on. I was just supposed to list a whole bunch of things you wanted to talk about.
You would have a lot more rubble if those buildings were.
Is that where you want to start? You want to start?
I don't know where. I mean, you say pancake theory, and I know that's a theory, but there would have been a lot more rubble, man.
Oh yeah,
those buildings were turned to fucking dust.
Yeah, and the there's
dude, there's raw videos out there where firefighters were going into some of the lobbies after shit happened. And people were talking about explosions. You can hear fucking explosions going on.
Yeah, and people have seen these things, maybe not everybody, but I remember they would show, like, if a building was going to get demolished, right? They would show that shit on the news, right? It was just a story like, such and such hotel's coming down today and we're here to witness the demolition. And then what do you see? You see all these explosions where little bits of debris come shooting out of the sides of the building.
Squibs. And you can see the squibs coming out the windows.
And then the building comes down. We see that same thing on 9/11. We see it. We can see it happening in real time. And then people have taken like still images that are all blurry. And it's like, hey, you're making a really hard case for this. But we see how buildings have come down in controlled demolitions before. And now all of a sudden we see the same evidence. But no. With the pancake theory, you see, as the floors were coming down, it was creating pressure that was blowing out the windows on either side. And it was like, okay, well, how come that doesn't happen with buildings that just naturally get destroyed?
Have you ever watched videos on how that shit's built? The outer core of that fucking building are these big, giant steel fucking plates, man, set in place.
Yeah. And I think the theory with that was that the way that the World Trade Center was built, you had an outer structure of beams. I forget how many there are, but there was an outer structure of beams and then an inner structure of beams. So think of it like a square donut if you were looking at it from the sky.
And then all the columns on the inside.
And the theory is that the planes crashed into the building, spilling jet fuel all over the insides of the elevator shafts, which, started melting the beams. And then then the beams started to lose their structural integrity. Now, this is where it does, there's no way jet fuel melts steel. It doesn't need to melt the steel. It only needs to weaken the steel. But
I don't think that much jet fuels. You got to think with that impact and its fuel, that shit's not going to burn for that long. A lot of that shit's going to go up initially.
Well, and this is
on top of the fact that airplanes are made of light material, man.
Well, no, and that's the thing. This is the thing, because I went down this rabbit hole, man. We both did, with the 9/11 conspiracy theories, and I feel like you got to give both sides a shot. And don't worry, there were tons of people when these theories started coming out. There was there was a whole commission. It was funny because it happened in Europe. I don't remember seeing a single American person debunking any of these things. It was all a bunch of people in Europe and Spain.
Debunkers.
Yeah.
By the way, New Pearl Harbor, that's one for people to check out.
Yeah.
Doesn't get into everything, but in terms of being like an educational video and giving straight up graphs and doing math work and everything else, it's really good. It doesn't sound like they're against particular people. It does call out our government, but just saying, a New Pearl Harbor is a good place to start.
So the main conspiracy theory is that the jet fuel melted the beams, which weakened the structure and caused it to collapse. Okay, then the debunkers say it doesn't need to melt the steel, which is true. It doesn't need to. It just needs to weaken the steel enough to bring it down. Other thing is that buildings are coated in insulated materials, and even like they're coated in insulated materials to prevent just that kind of a thing, to have heat not weaken the structure. I don't buy the whole thing that that the jet fuel melted them down.
Part of it is because people would also say, and some of these are the people that just would roll with that. That's what they'd always say. Well, it all went down all the elevator shafts. There is not one elevator that goes from top to the bottom in the World Trade Center. There are sections of elevators. Some go to certain points. There was not one elevator that go up and down. There was also, don't know the guy's name right off the bat, but he's out there. I believe he's also in a new Pearl Harbor. Like there's clips of him talking. He was a maintenance worker. Yes, we need to put that on there. And that is something that could still be found on YouTube. Don't know why it's censored like it is. I think it's really good. I know you've watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it pushes anything crazy. I think there's nothing wrong with asking questions. But there's a maintenance worker from the World Trade Center who was in the basement when this shit was going down. And at the time, right around when the first plane hit, there was a fucking explosion in the fucking basement. And dude, the other thing is, when all was said and done, do you realize that shit was burning hot, like molten steel hot, over a month after that shit was done? That ain't fucking jet fuel getting that shit to fucking burn like that, I think, man.
Well, and
the fact that they were hauling the steel out of there so quick to be recycled during the cleanup is like, you're getting rid of evidence, is how I look at it. Why, if you really cared and wanted to look at it?
No, and the thing about the fire weakening the structure too. There's tons of situations where steel buildings, like whether it was just a regular house fire, like an apartment complex, for instance, steel building, one apartment starts burning up, it spreads to the whole building. The entire building is engulfed in flames. It doesn't come down. Why didn't it? Now, yeah, I get jet fuel burns hotter, but when a building burns for fucking, 2 days and still doesn't lose its structural integrity, but I get it. The stuff from the crash caused some damage too, but then you get into, okay, well, if it caused that much damage to, when it caused that much damage to the World Trade Center, how come there's only like a tunnel hole bored through the Pentagon? How come the Pentagon didn't fucking come down like the goddamn Oklahoma City bombing that was done with fertilizer,
Well, that's what they say. That's a whole nother conversation. They say that. Yeah. I will say real quick on that. That one blows me away. And I've only dove down this a little bit. They say it was a van parked outside of it. Mm-hmm. But it's clearly, if it was parked outside of it and blew that, wouldn't it have blown the material into the building, not fucking out? Mm-hmm. That fucking shit's blown out, man. Anyway,
yeah,
I know it's a whole different thing, but again, it's one of them things where people look at this shit and it happens, and you're in the heat of the moment, and you get this fucking, what the fuck, and you're trusting what you think is people you should trust or institutions you should trust with their narrative. And then it's like, when you look at it later, when you can just process your mind, it's not emotions, it's not adrenaline, and it's like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm referring to 9/11 right now, but you can do it with other things. This doesn't make sense. And you're dancing around certain things.
Yeah.
Well, and then you see other things that are going on and hear about certain deals and things people say. And they're so arrogant where it's almost like they're letting you know.
Yeah, I mean, one, you've got so much money already that you're pretty sure you could. Well, you're actually not pretty sure. You're like certain that you could buy your way out of anything, and then you get involved in something that makes you so much more money after the fact. It's like, you know what? Whatever happened.
Lucky Larry?
Exactly. You know
who his BFF is? Well, I don't know if it still is, but at that time, conveniently, current Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, who is had been a previous one before 9/11 back in the 90s, and then since then he's a pest that's been around forever. But
Oh yeah.
Larry Silverstein, who was convinced to purchase all the Trade Center buildings months before it, he's like, then pushed for this massive insurance policy also. But him and Netanyahu were very close. Him and it's weird, multiple prime ministers from Israel off and on at the time. But him and Netanyahu every Sunday, it's written, there's interviews with him saying they talked every Sunday by noon or before noon. They just talk, they'd always talk. They'd have their talks and shit. And Netanyahu had also written books about, he would try to reference needing help, kind of saying he needed help with the way Israel deals with terrorism, and just to get the United States needs a new Pearl Harbor. These are this man's words. It's out there. This is the man that also said a year or two after it happened that 9/11 is a good thing for Israel, and he tried to quickly kind of, I don't mean it's good, but this is a good thing. Because he's got his big dumb robot to do the dirty work.
Oh yeah, and it seemed like you were getting into a particular thing
with Larry.
Yes,
so I am getting to that.
How
but
exactly?
I'm sorry and it was my fault because I said the piece. I am not a fan of Benjamin Netanyahu.
No.
Current events right now.
Yeah, he's actually
should get plenty of people. That is an evil man.
There are actually government bodies who are trying to have him jailed.
He would be if it wasn't for the United States. He'd be charged with war crimes.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Just like when we did the fucked up shit with Slobodan Milosevic in Serbia back in the 90s.
Yeah. But the Larry Silverstein thing, you mentioned that he was told to purchase the buildings.
He was encouraged to.
Yeah.
They asked him, "Would you be interested?" Because they were pretty much worthless. Because the asbestos, they were built when they were completed, asbestos and everything in there, and nobody even gave up. Nobody even bothered doing an actual calculation how much it would cost.
Another flame retardant material, I believe.
Yes, and the buildings were pretty much, even though they were considered a landmark, they were also a burden. They cost money. They didn't need to be there, but they were a symbol. I notice also. It's just that part's weird.
I mean, come on, dude. Any skyline of New York in a movie or a video game had fucking
Ghostbusters when fucking Ray and Winston are driving over the bridge and shit, and Judgment Day.
But anyways, he purchases these buildings, and then how does he?
You ever think the dead is rising from the grave? Sorry.
No. Because no, it's all right. You can throw those lines out here because once you finish your next point, I got one too. But no, nice. So he purchases these buildings. How does he benefit from? How does he benefit from these attacks?
After the attacks happened, and he had stuff in there about planes hitting the buildings, and and of course terrorist attacks. It's realistic because there was a terrorist attack in '93. There was the bombs in the basement.
Oh yeah,
but he had certain things put in there, and it was billions of dollars. I think he ended up getting over $3 billion, and he did fight for it. And I believe it was a governor that was in later on, Elliot Spitzer, who I think was, had some kiddie shit going on or something over time later. He was later disregarded, but yes, Larry's in an interview. He's like, I'm having trouble getting this insurance money. Can you help me out? Can you help me? I fucking can't stand Larry Silverstein, man. He's referred to as Lucky Larry. There are documentaries on 9/11 where he even says this, and I hate that he says it like this. And he's just like, we were very, very lucky. Oh, he was so lucky because his wife typically every morning he would have breakfast at the top floor of, I forget which tower, but he would have breakfast up there, the restaurant. Every fucking morning, go to work, do that. How my wife happened to set up this dermatologist appointment. She's like, well, your skin, you're not going in today. You are going to see the dermatologist. I was like, so grateful to my wife. And his kids happened to not show up that day either. Lots of other people linked in with it.
What are their appointments? What
They
appointments
never said, they just disregarded, but they didn't show up that day either. They were far away. They were very, very lucky. And he was also, and he slipped up, and people have been yanked out of shit where they've called him out where he's speaking at events and people will bring up Building 7. There's a PBS documentary on 9/11. He's sitting there talking about it, and he's like, watched it so many times. I remember a few of the phrases perfectly. He's like, oh, I just said, oh, there's this Building 7 now. There's been so much loss of life that they just pull it. Yeah, because you can set up. Come on, man. They were saying that's a fucking demolition term. And you think you can rig that shit up like that? And then they say it fell because of fires into itself. Come on, man.
So you mentioned that he made about $3 billion.
$3 billion roughly. It was in the billions. He was very lucky.
That's off the insurance.
Yes.
So how much do you know how much he purchased them for?
I forget what he purchased it for. It's probably in this book somewhere in front of me, but it was a decent amount.
Like, let's say he purchases them for millions, but then makes $3 billion.
They were also public buildings before.
Yeah.
Once he got it, they were private, which also meant he controlled security and everything else. One of the things that got me to look into 9/11 stuff, because, and like a lot of people, everybody always likes, oh, it was all Bush. That dumb motherfucker didn't set this up. That's a puppet. He's in on it. But Bush's brother was the head of the security company that did security on the World Trade Centers. When they had all them art students and everybody staying there, they had free reign of those top floors. They built a makeshift balcony out there. They lit up the windows saying, "We see you." I forget the word. They lit up all the windows at night one time. There's pictures of it out there, like it's almost mocking because it's lit up in the exact spot one of the planes hit, and it makes a phrase. It's crazy as shit. The art students, gelatin. Gelatin is also a term for explosives. Look, man, this shit is out there on the internet. There are facts on this.
But
I mean, there's paperwork. Some of these people were arrested because they got arrogant.
Well, then there we go. We solved it.
Some of these guys that were arrested that day, you know what they told the cops? We're not your problem. The Palestinians, they're your problem. And then another one, it's documented, sat there and said, yeah, you'll see what happens. In 20 years, we'll have taken over your media and we're going to ruin your country. It is insane, man. And some of these guys, not all of them, but there was the 5 that got arrested. One of them was just one of, an art student or whatever, who knows, but there was one who was confirmed, the brother of one of them that is confirmed. Mossad, I believe Mossad's got their fingers in a lot of shit, man.
Oh yeah.
He got their fingers all over our CIA,
dude. No, and
they held these guys for 72 days and they were quietly deported back to Israel.
This is a separate thing, and I would actually like to link a video that I saw recently doing research for this, but it was actually a newer video on YouTube called "How Israel Spies on the United States." They've been caught spying on us multiple times.
Do you realize Israel has done more spying than even our own fucking enemies on us?
Oh yeah.
Back in the Cold War,
the whole thing.
They stole nuclear shit and sold it to fucking Russia, and then also had it for themselves. Dude, this is why I get infuriated. And people think it's just a hate thing. I hate how they are. How do people and they use the same one, our ironclad ally. Yeah, you just say the same bullshit. Same bullshit, man. Oh, why? Because they pay you and you have fucking dual citizenship? Kiss my ass.
But
sorry.
No.
It fires me up, man.
I know. That's why I was letting you get into the meat of this. Yeah. I just wanted to make this joke. No,
bring it on. We need a laugh.
So Larry Silverstein, let's say he buys all these buildings. Let's say he buys them for $500 million. I don't know. And then through the insurance on those buildings, he makes $3 billion. Well, there you go. We solved it. There's no conspiracy other than Larry Silverstein is involved in a textbook case of hold on here. Insurance fraud.
Here we go, right here. 6 weeks before the events of September 11th, Silverstein leased the Twin Towers and buildings numbers 4 and 5 of the World Trade Center complex, which all those buildings were torn down. 7 is the one that had some links to CIA and shit. It's weird. It's called the Solomon Building too. Excuse me. For 99 years, he agreed to pay $3.2 billion. God damn.
So wait.
July 24th, he became the owner.
Okay, so he paid he probably didn't pay it all.
To become private owner. Oh, no, he didn't pay it off, but yeah.
So he buys them, starts making payments, in I guess in good faith or whatever. But a 99-year lease?
Mm-hmm.
This dude is old then.
Oh, he's still alive too. I looked. I was
but I mean, it's like a 99-year lease.
Well, come on, man.
It's weird. I know that it's weird. And I mean, I guess if you've got a company that's supposed to last forever, but it sounds like some Scientology bullshit where you have to fucking sell your fucking, you sell your soul for fucking 1,000 years or whatever. It's like, why are you going to make a ridiculous contract that's not going to last the lifetime of the person making it? Even if somebody made it for him as a newborn, the chances of him living to 99 to fulfill that lease, it's like, it's weird. That's a 99-year lease. It's fucking stupid. But yeah, that's just a sillier thing about it. But some of the other, well, that's not silly. That particular one is that's documented. He did all those things, and he made money off of it. I guess that's why he's got the nickname Lucky. But other things start to come from the aftermath of this. There's lots of things that were found in the rubble of the buildings and in the Pennsylvania flight that crashed that didn't make it to its I guess intended target. All the terrorists, the alleged terrorists. I mean, I guess I don't know if you can allege something like that when they're already dead, but it was something like you had four planes, and each plane had like a team of 5 terrorists or something. So it ended up, what was it, 21, 22 hijackers or something like that?
Yeah.
And it was very funny that these planes that crashed into these buildings and burnt up all of this stuff. Jet fuel, Jimmy, that melts steel, but somehow doesn't melt passports of these alleged terrorists.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, but they found, was it Muhammad Atta's? That's always the main name they throw out there.
It disintegrated buildings, but didn't eliminate any of the evidence that paints the narrative.
I'm trying to find him because I know it's listed in here. There was one terrorist who was found to be alive after it had happened also.
Well, maybe he got cold feet.
It wasn't Atta, though. That's the only one that you kept hearing about was Muhammad Atta. But I think he was the ringleader of the terrorists.
Yeah, I mean, and then you had the people. I mean, obviously there was Osama bin Laden, but what was the other guy? The architect of 9/11.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Yes.
The one that they kept torturing, and he finally just admitted, like, yeah, we did all this. We knew it. Yeah, I'm tired of being waterboarded and having shit shoved down my pee hole. Don't know if the pee hole stuff happened, but you never know with our fucking government and Mossad. Well, yeah, Mossad was probably there.
Well, and the funny thing is that the majority of American people have a faith in the American government that makes them feel safe, and it should.
Oh, but, very much at that time still.
Well, like, here's like a perfect example, right? I heard about an argument today and it's an argument that pops up. It started popping up with the whole Israel-Palestine thing and the nukes thing, right? So what's the most famous thing where America used nukes?
Oh, yeah.
Japan, Pearl Harbor, right? And a lot of people will say, well, we killed thousands to save millions. That's supposed to be comforting? No. If my government is willing to just vaporize thousands or millions of people, what makes me think like, oh, I'm just walking along. I know where I'm going most of the time, but I like to go hiking. I like to go fishing. I'm just walking. Then all of a sudden I walk on some fucking, private military property and I saw something that I wasn't supposed to see. A government that will vaporize thousands, you think they're going to give a shit about? No, I will disappear.
Yeah.
I will disappear.
He was hiking and he fell.
Yeah.
He fell down there.
Yeah.
He must. He'd been drinking.
They'll if you think our government won't kill 100 people to hide a secret, you're naive. We do it probably every day.
They don't care about us, man.
No.
People talk about evil corporations. This country's run like a great big fucking evil corporation.
What do we produce? Meat for the machine?
It's coming to that.
Yeah. we need a bunch of young kids who get promised college degrees to in the event that they survive the meat grinder, whether it's Israel or whether it's potentially Taiwan, China, Russia, whatever. Didn't we?
They really want that shit with
we
Russia.
put boots on the ground in Lebanon, didn't we?
We
Recently.
probably have.
Recently.
I mean, we probably. There's reports that we've had boots on the ground during the whole thing with, Hamas and
Yeah.
shit, which is an Israeli created machine early on to go against Arafat's group back in the day.
But yeah,
And Arafat and guys like that, they came out quick because they knew where the finger was going to get pointed. Arafat did. Though Arafat wasn't considered an enemy because we'd have him to the White House. They did talks and tried to make deals and peace deals. But Saddam Hussein was pretty fucking quick. Like, look, man, I don't fucking like you. I didn't do that shit. Again, why would he? Why would he have anything to fucking do with that? The power of our government compared to his? What's that gonna do?
yeah, like
It's that motherfucker. He clearly liked to live on the high end. You think he wanted to lose what he had? Look how he looked when they dug him out of that hole.
Exactly. If you were lying about WMDs because you were worried about your surrounding countries attacking you, why would you start a fight with the United States?
Dude, it's fucking weird. There's a thing in here from Osama bin Laden, his statement, and people will say well, he hated our country, he wanted us dead. Everybody likes the fact that everybody believed Bush said, and I know David Cross made it funny once it got to the Iraq War, the hate of freedom.
Yeah.
That motherfucker said that shit though. Like,
Yeah.
that's why they were attacking us.
freedom haters.
No, because if it was them, it's because we're fucking with them. But at the same, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because of what's the point? Oh, to die for Allah. The motherfuckers just want to be left the fuck alone, And it's not justified. I'm just saying, look at shit bigger. They justified that as a reason to go in and fuck up these people that they wanted to make a boogeyman. And again, whatever with bin Laden, yeah, he had his hateful shit. The dude used to work for the CIA. So
Yeah.
motherfucker got dirty hands on all ends, But in terms of if you're looking at who did it, you need to look at tippy top shit, man.
Yeah,
Look at the Mossad more.
And we've, because it's current and it's what we're dealing with, or we're not dealing with shit. We're just hearing about it in the news. We're talking about this stuff with Israel, Palestine, but you mentioned
They
it.
tried real quick, Ryan.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but I wanted to make sure I get this in. Is one point where I learned over time where you can kind of tell they're telling on themselves when they do what they did. The commission report.
Yes.
You know what else they did a commission report on? JFK, the fucking Warren report, filled with bullshit. Don't remember the dude's first name? Warren, though? hated JFK and apparently said on record after everything happened, or somebody had him saying, he's like, yeah, fuck him. I fucking hate him. He got what he deserved. And that dude headed the Warren Report.
Of course.
Look how deep you want to in it. Both of those are filled with bullshit. They already said there's 28 pages missing from the public document. I have that work of fiction sitting right there, Ryan. We'll take a picture of it.
Well, yeah,
and put it on
and
the
if our government was complicit in this, and then
Bush wouldn't even testify without Cheney right by saying, I need dick. Dick. I need dick.
But no, it's, you know, okay, if our government was complicit in this attack, oh, well, we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Well, we also did on a day
America,
where the military were doing drills all the way across the country. So you couldn't get anybody in there. You got to think, little 2-hour window right there, man.
That was one of those. That was one of the other parts of the just things that didn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of go back to what you were saying about the 9/11 Commission report. Okay, people think that it was an inside job. We knew about it. We let it happen. Okay, well, we're gonna have an investigation about this. Okay, so It's like if you know, I was a murderer and I was the person investigating my own murder. It turns out I did nothing wrong.
You know,
How
Bush
do you know
wanted
that?
to be the
Well, I
main
did the
dude involved
investigation.
with the investigation, and even his own people were like, "Come on, man, no." But fucking Henry Kissinger, oh, that's a solid dude. Fucking, yeah. Look up what that motherfucker thinks about our troops, man. That dude's a fucking piece of shit. You know who he fucking who his protege is? Klaus Schwab,
Of course.
the Bond villain.
But going back to the airplanes, it just seems like unbelievable that, okay, I get it. You know, you need to practice. You need to, you know, how are you supposed to address a threat? How are you supposed to train our pilots or our soldiers to address a threat unless you have a simulation? That's great. Did you have to have 100% of the Air Force nowhere near New York at the time?
Yep.
Like, and if you were going to do that,
And the ones that they did have up in the air that they could try to get out there as quick as possible wouldn't have had enough fuel to fucking make it there.
yeah, it's like, where were they all at? Were they near other population centers? Were they near Los Angeles? Were they near Chicago?
I believe it was
Were
the
they
Midwest.
near fucking-
Colorado is an area that I hear about. I'd have to look it up. It's in here also, but it is. You need people on the inside. Like, I know I've been sitting here like just putting it on Israel. It ain't all on them. You need people on the inside too. But some of these people on the inside have co-citizenship to that country also.
And okay, and then that's one of the biggest things that the debunkers like to talk about. Like, if this happened, this will have been the most and first time a conspiracy of this magnitude happened without a hitch. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we know what we know, but nobody got in trouble for it. Basically, the argument is there's no possible way that this many people could know about this big of an event and not blow a whistle on it 20 years later. If it was a conspiracy theory, or if it was an inside job, it was the most successful.
There were people that tried and they were either fired or had things happen to
I
them.
doubt any of them were fired, unless it was out of a cannon into the ocean, never to be seen again. I can't imagine anybody who could have that big of a
There
threat.
was a few that were taken out in supposed, car crashes and shit like that.
I don't doubt it. Yeah. Mysterious brakes that fail, but then the engine block ends up in a fucking another state.
They do some of that shit now.
Oh yeah, it's there's so many different things, and you have the, like what we're doing right now. Yeah, we're kind of bad mouthing our government.
I don't care.
Well, it's, yeah, I mean, the idea is that we do care and we don't want it to happen.
I don't want it to happen, but I feel like our government hates us.
Exactly. I want that to stop happening. I want everybody responsible for everything bad that's ever been done to face some sort of justice. Now, most of these people in the history of America, or of all the atrocious shit that we've done, apparently, a lot of these people they're never gonna face justice of any kind. If there's even a whiff that they're ever gonna face some sort of tribunal, they will end up on an island somewhere so fucking quick.
The only thing they were right about was that day there was quite a few headlines and politicians out there saying our government was struck by evil today. And that's the one truth they said. It's just what the evil was, man. Because it takes some evil shit to do the stuff that's been done. It takes somebody that is fucking heartless, does not give a fuck, that thinks it's people that think people's lives are worthless,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's going back to that.
It's almost like they think they're not considered human or something. Almost like they're cattle. Fuckers.
Like it's okay to lie to them.
Like it's in a book or something.
Yeah.
It's in a few books, I think.
But and I've listed a couple of different things here. So we have we have the passengers that were making phone calls. We have the beams. We have the pancake theory. Is there anything that we didn't touch on as far as in the conspiracy theories on the buildings? I know that there's
I'm sure,
whole...
but there's some where it's like I think some of those people, it's like you're taking away from the conversation.
Oh, no.
Like those
yeah,
people that would say it was holograms and shit. It's like
that. Okay, that's what
I feel like you're a plant, motherfucker.
That's it's retarded. As a matter of fact, it's agent provocateurs. I guess.
Another one. And at the time you would think they're trying to get a message about one group that pisses me off now are the guys that did Loose Change, because all they wanted to do was they was one of the first major documentaries somebody made about 9/11. But they were just so much just want to say it was Bush, and the people as stuff has come out, there are guys who've listened to them and wanted to talk to them about this stuff, and they don't want to hear anything about the other shit. It's like,
and the thing
all right, I get it.
The thing that I think
you really hate Bush. I don't like a motherfucker either, but he's just a puppet.
Well,
Cheney probably knew more than Bush, or Cheney probably grabbed Bush by his little fucking neck and like, you're gonna fucking go through with this motherfucker.
Well, and to go back to go back to the point about you can't get this many people involved in a conspiracy and not have somebody spill the beans. And it's like, maybe that's true, but then again, how many people in our country, just if you're just thinking our country, how many people in our country do you need to sway to just, and once again, the pilots there may have really been, I mean, I'm sure there was somebody decided to make those training days.
I believe there were people in planes. I believe they were from Saudi Arabia. I also believe Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy. He was there.
Well, and you won't know until
they were there.
You know what? And our government knows. When they released that report and so much shit was redacted, it was redacted because they know who did it.
And this was also
we can't know that they know, and they don't want us to know.
Dude, there was blatant shit in front of our face, and it was funny you made a reference about watching C-SPAN and shit, because I know this was probably broadcast on C-SPAN because it was testifying during Congress for the commission report. And they showed some of this footage in A New Pearl Harbor. And it was I forget his name. He was an Asian man, but he was I believe the transportation secretary at the time during the Bush administration. And everything was going down. He was testifying, and he was down there in a secure area, and Cheney was down there, and it was before the fucking plane hit the Pentagon. And, there was a young soldier who kept going up to Cheney and he was like saying, "Sir, the plane's this far out. Does the order still stand?" And Cheney wouldn't say anything. And this dude's fucking saying this.
Yeah, like 4 minutes out.
Oh, he said it. He asked him several times, and then it got to a point where he was like, "Sir, the plane's 30 seconds out. Does the order still stand?" And Cheney turned and looked at the young dude from the testimony from this secretary. He's like, "Did I say anything? God damn it! Did I say anything to the contrary?" "No, sir." And then he turned away. Like, let that shit happen.
So, but and like I said.
Yeah, it doesn't tell people like somebody knew something.
But no. Well, that's the thing. They knew, and the whole thing is that without getting them to spill the beans. So, how do you get somebody to not spill the beans? 2 different ways that I know. Dead people can't tell secrets, or, like I said, you've got people like Lucky Larry who walked away with $3 billion.
Exactly.
You have like Bush.
And
Bush doesn't need to make like a super trillion bazillion dollars.
He was a puppet man.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, but there has to be generals. There has to be people in the CIA, FBI, all
CIA,
of the alphabet,
definitely.
all of the alphabet organizations. There has to be high up people that probably aren't in these organizations anymore. But look at what they made
the amount of
before
people that
9/11
got
and what they're at now.
A lot of people got promotions that should have got fired.
Exactly.
After that shit.
Exactly. So it was
fucking
like,
insane.
How do you make that many people? How do you keep that many people from spilling the beans? You make it to where they never want to.
I do think though, because so many of them. I mean, there had to be a lot of people, and I even think the people on the inside. Sometimes I wonder. It's like when those towers came down. That part of it, I do think some of them guys were like, "Oh, I didn't know they were going to go this far. Something was going to happen to them."
You thought that massive damage was going to be dealt, and that they would still be able to hit. They were still going to be able to get what they wanted to get done. But then when that shit fell down, they were like, "I can't talk about this. I can't."
Or I didn't realize they were going to go this far. In terms of the people outside of the government that were involved with it.
Exactly, though. But if you didn't know that it was going to go that far.
They knew, and it's like, I can't say shit.
Exactly. You're either so fucking rich that you can take care of your family for the rest of their fucking lives.
I've never heard anybody say it like that, but I do wonder, like, if some of them were like, "Oh, I didn't know they were going to level the fucking buildings." Oh,
yeah.
Fuck.
That seems pretty fair.
I mean, because that's like
that's a little bit of faith in humanity there.
The amount of people that you would think, man, that's a lot of evil, because a lot of people had to know the amount of people that fucking died just because of the fucking dust in the air, man.
Oh yeah, years later,
killed a lot of fucking people.
Years later, firefighters and first responders dying of fucking cancer and shit like that. Yeah,
I mean when that shit dropped, that was poison everywhere. There was probably just random people who were there that were hiding when all that shit, when the dust came tumbling down. You know, I hate to say dust, but the more I watch, man, it's like that shit's incinerated before your eyes. It was like, what the fuck was they? And it sucks to watch that shit that much. You know, at the heat of the moment, it looks like they're coming. That shit's not that. You were talking about pancake theory, man. Just go back and watch that shit. It's like it's disintegrating before your eyes. Those 2 buildings fell different. I mean, the other one was dropped like demolition. That shit had bombs, but that shit was getting turned to dust. And there were points, like, you ever seen the close-ups where out the window it looks like fucking molten steel, like liquid, like lava coming out of some of the windows?
No, I never.
There's only so much footage of that, but everybody still keeps saying jet fuel on that part, and that's before it falls. And it's like, I don't know, man. And then there are people that say it's not thermite. There are people that say it was some sort of different technology. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of questions, man. And who knows? And you brought up the phone thing, and then and it's in New Pearl Harbor. Maybe they landed the planes. Who knows what happened to those people? You got to think this is like not far before drones. Like, oh, look at this new drone technology. Maybe that was the first live things of drones.
Seems kind of ridiculous to me now that I think about it. No, not the drones. The fact that we can remote control an airplane. No. That doesn't surprise me.
And you got to
at all.
think, remember?
But that they
everything
landed...
gets smaller as it gets better. So that was like the early drones. So it's like, of course, it's going to be a giant plane. It's like the first cell phones that were like,
Yeah,
or
but
cordless phones that were like holding a brick up to your face.
well, I mean, to me, programming a plane to be flown remote controlly is actually easier back then than drone technology would have been at the time. Like, you know, whatever. But the thing that makes it seem kind of weird is going back to that whole, like, how did this many people know about it? Okay, well, if they landed that plane and those people were able to make phone calls on the ground, you know, or whatever, under duress or whatever, what happened to those people?
They killed them.
Exactly. Like, did they die in that plane crash? Like that's the whole thing. Like, the whole idea is that if they couldn't have made those phone calls unless they were on the ground, then those people just, where are they at now? They didn't pay all those people off. None of those regular fucking jerk offs were gonna take, you know, the fucking $1 million fucking thing. That's where that one's kind of weird, you know? So it's like, why would there have been a drone? And why would the drone have just, if that was supposed to be the Pennsylvania flight that just crashed into the ground? Like,
I mean, there was no remnants of a plane, it sounds like, too. It sounds like that one was just a fucking hole in the ground.
It just disintegrated, yeah.
Whereas every other plane crash, you see footage of
Yeah,
it.
they're pulling the tail and the wing, and you can still see, like, the fucking engine and shit like that. Yeah, that was very... There's so many questions that...
And again, I'm not sitting here saying everything is what it...
No, yeah, exactly.
I believe the
You know
only thing
what?
I'm saying it is what it is. There's fucked up shit that went on.
That
Part, but who knows what they did, man? Because, you know, technology's way ahead of what we have at our fingertips. I believe it's more than decades at the end of the day, depending on how deep you go.
I would say 10 to 20 years. So, like, smartphones, we have these smartphones. Something tells me that most, not just our government, but most of the big governments had the technology for smartphones 20 years before we had the technology.
Got to go down to Antarctica and get that ancient tech.
Oh man, but
I want my plasma rifle.
but that is a good thing to end off on here. That we're not going to sound like we're not going to. Well, you can't sound like Jesse Ventura without saying it. But we're just asking questions. You know, we don't believe 100% that any of these particular things happened. We just know that we didn't get the full answer.
No. And there's a lot of evil motherfuckers that get away with shit, dude. And look, I'm no fucking saint, but I can't stand it. I believe we just put up with it for years and never really, there's nothing but evil motherfuckers that are in control that preach to us and talk about good, the greater good, fighting for the greater good, doing it for gold.
And
sometimes you got to question an ironclad ally.
yeah, I like that.
Yep.
You question your allies,
Hey,
even if they are
when you got proof, right?
ironclad.
Yeah, ain't nothing ironclad.
No.
It's fucking wolf in sheep's clothing, playing victim all the time.
Well, you know, we do the same thing to other countries.
I know, and it's fucking sick.
Yeah. But damn, shouldn't have kept talking, man. I like the way you ended that. Say it again.
Which part?
The ironclad ally part.
Oh,
geez, you just said it, man. You got to question even your ironclad ally.
Oh yeah, sometimes you got to question them harder, especially when they've stolen from you more than anybody else.
Oh yeah. But
it's like a brother-in-law that's like a fucking junkie, and you keep wanting to help him out. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Nah, man. It's
Come on, man. This is the last time.
Who's the
Maybe that's the wrong example.
It all depends.
Maybe it doesn't seem as mean if I say it's like a gambling problem. I keep loaning you this money, man. You keep butting against me.
But
fuck you.
But before we jump off of here, man, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Not really, man.
Just
not trying to offend anybody, but
yeah,
really look into it.
Oh,
New Pearl Harbor.
Yes, thank you.
That's the main one, just because it comes off like an educational video and it's got lots of proof. There's other stuff out there. I recommend looking into the Dancing Israelis.
Okay.
There's books out there. Just it's worth looking into. And some people say, why bother? I'd like to know. You know?
Yeah.
I don't like following blindly and then the person that I'm following's just fucking evil, man. You know, if I can go against the grain a little bit in my own way and still live, but I'll do that.
Hells yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of evil. Like I said, I ain't no fucking saint, but I'll call evil out every second I get, especially when there's a lot of innocent people that suffer because of it, and these motherfuckers live on the fucking, you know, feeding off the top end. Fuck 'em.
I mean, it always goes back to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody say, "Oh, watch what." I don't care. So
yeah.
On that note, I'll stop rambling about it. I'll keep repeating it, but it's why I always talk about. Me and you have had a million conversations about 9/11, man. And it's because it bothers me. It's everyone's like, it's happened so long ago. Look how much it's changed everything. We gave up our rights. We have the Patriot Act because of that shit that took rights away, and now they're using the shit against their own citizens. Anyway, we're gonna go into a whole other thing, but it changed everything.
Yeah,
and maybe if people took a step back, turned off the emotions, and looked at it, they'd fucking see some of the truth that's blatantly in front of you at this point.
Hells yeah, nicely said.
Thank you.
All right, well.
Maybe we'll make it more humorous next time.
It's definitely going to be more humorous. I don't want to say what we're going to talk about because every time I say a particular thing, we were supposed to do it like American Badasses, and then we didn't do that. And I think there was like 2 or 3 other topics I said we were going to talk about next episode. We never talked about. But we've got some good ideas
into
in
the Halloween season. Don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I got a couple ideas. Once we cut this off, we'll throw out there too. Maybe there'll be some fun, shorter episodes we can do.
Hells yeah! Let's get a good plan. And we're breaking the fourth wall here, but anyways, you folks be good out there. Good night, folks.
Question everything.